The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 253. It's only early July, but fall practice is only 4 weeks away. Is it too early to talk Michigan football? Then we agree. Art Regner from the Maize and Blue Sit-In here on Wolverine Sports Radio is my guest today. Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast, brought to you in partnership with Maize and Brew, your best source for quality Michigan Wolverine news, rumors, analysis, stats, and scores from the fan perspective, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the Michigan Man here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. A reminder that it's easier than ever to tune us in. Our free show app is available in the iTunes Store. Just do a search for the Michigan Man, the Android Play Store, and Windows 8 App Store. So check one of our apps out for the best in Wolverine coverage. We're on our summer schedule right now of 2 shows a month. So this is the first program in July. We'll be back with our next show on July 22nd. Then on August 5th, it's back to weekly coverage right through April as we get ready for a busy fall and winter schedule of Michigan athletics. In August, we have some great preview shows planned for you. So not that we want to rush summer, but it's time to start thinking Michigan football and that Thursday night opener at Utah on September 3rd. My guest today is a name oh so familiar to Michigan fans, especially here in the Detroit area. Art Regner has been on the radio dial at WDFN The Fan, then 97.1 The Ticket, and for many years at Fox Sports Detroit. These days you can hear him right here on Wolverine Sports Radio, co-hosting the Maize and Blue Sit-In with his old Detroit radio partner, Greg Henson. If you haven't heard the show, just download the Wolverine Sports Radio app from iTunes and check it out. He is a Michigan alum and, as he says, completely unbiased when it comes to his Michigan Wolverines. Sort of, that is. Many of you listen to us each week from all parts of the country and around the world, so you might not know who Art Regner is. You will get a dose of him on today's show. Art also hosted the Detroit Red Wings pre- and post-game show on their network for many years and was beloved by hockey fans all over the state. Art is a great guest, and he could probably talk for hours or even days about his beloved Wolverines. So buckle up, Michigan fans. Art Regner joins me next on our Game Day segment here on The Michigan Man in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew and Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network. With us on our Michigan Game Day segment this week to talk a little Jim Harbaugh and Michigan football here in the early part of July is Art Regner, who's also co-host of the Maize and Blue Sit-In right here on Wolverine Sports Radio with his old Detroit sports buddy Greg Henson, and that's entertaining. So I invite you to get the Wolverine Sports Radio app at the iTunes Store, and you'll hear a great lineup of Wolverine shows if you can't get enough Harbaugh news these days. And Art, of course, formerly of Fox Sports Detroit, WDFN The Fan, 97.1 The Ticket. I could go on and on. I miss your Red Wings pre- and post-game shows so much, Art.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Especially now with where the Red Wings are about to head under Jeff Blashill. They're going to get younger. The acquisition of Mike Green, even Brad Richards. But definitely Green, a right-handed shooting defenseman who's a power play quarterback, a specialist, the right-handed shot that they've needed. So a lot of good things are happening with the Red Wings right now. I'm pretty encouraged that they're going to get younger and they have the right coach in place. Nothing against Mike Babcock, but certainly the Wings should be okay, especially if Datsuk and Zetterberg can remain healthy.
Well, a lot to look forward to. Of course, the Wings go to camp in September, and before they get there, we're going to get a good look at our Michigan Wolverines. And it's early July, Art. I think most of us that covered are starting to run out of things to talk about. But have you ever, though, experienced, Art, in all of your days, not only of being a fan but covering the team, a fan base being so ready for the season to start?
Well, no, I haven't, and I think that's the anticipation, and that's the I don't know, maybe unintentional brilliance of Jim Harbaugh. I think that obviously Michigan is a behemoth. We know that, and they have a large fan base. They've been down for a number of years now. Ohio State has reclaimed the throne in the Big Ten as the elite program, the national program, the program that when you think Big Ten football, at least, you think about certainly the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're at the top of the list. Michigan State, I don't even think it's you can't even argue. They're the best team in the Great Lakes State right now, and Michigan doesn't like that. Michigan's fan base doesn't like that, and I think they're very, very excited that Jim Harbaugh is here. He's created a lot of buzz. I think some of the things that he does, Mike, I think that what Jim Harbaugh has done is made Michigan relevant again without them playing a football game. He's taken what were they last year? 5-7, and I don't know if there's a program in America that is talked about as much as Michigan right now, simply because of Jim Harbaugh.
I know it's been 6 months that he's been on the job. The team hasn't played it down yet, and he just seems to be in the news every day between Twitter, being on the radio. Last week it was with Colin Cowherd, maybe not the kind of publicity he wanted, but he's out there every day.
Right. Well, that's certainly right. I'm not sure. The whole Colin Cowherd thing, even that, there's some method to the madness there. I thought he reacted well about, hey, I'll take 50% of the blame for that interview. It takes two to tango, so to speak. So even what seems to be a negative, or becomes well, Harbaugh's a weirdo, or he didn't really want to do it. He was too aloof. If you don't want to do it, why go on the air? But he seems to be able to rebound and react very, very well from it. I think that's what's interesting about him, and I really have thought maybe too much about this, Mike, is that part of it is because of he came from the NFL back to college. And so he was a national name in the NFL. And, even though I love college football more than I like NFL football, because I've been Lions free for, a number of years, well over a decade now, I still think that the NFL is the national pastime at this point. It is the sport in this country. Harbaugh actually had the audacity to leave and go back to college. So I think he had a built-in curiosity, not because he came to Michigan so much, it's because he left the 49ers or did not take another NFL job. And so, up until the bitter end, all the guys that protect the shield, the NFL media, were saying, he would never go back to college. He would never do that. Why would he ever go back to college when he's in the NFL? And, obviously they don't get Jim Harbaugh, understand. And, and to me, I don't know, the feeling I get, Mike, and I'd be curious to see if you feel the same way, is that this is a guy who, it's like, you leave home, and you loved home, and you were successful at home, but, you had to go make your living elsewhere, and you did that, and then, like Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. Jim's put on his, maize and blue tennis shoes, tapped him 3 times, and he's back in Ann Arbor for the first time in 30 years. And, back in the, even though he was born in Toledo, his quote-unquote home state. And I think he's just having the time of his life. He's back home. He's reliving, childhood memories, throws out the first pitch, this week at Comerica Park. He's got this really, I can't tell you how many people have wanted, that the maize and blue tiger cap that he was wearing, with the block M he and his wife Sarah had on, and it's just, for him, I just think he's just having a great time. Now, of course, will that translate onto the football field? I've had a lot of people say to me that boy, what would Bo Schembechler think? Jim's on social media, Jim's doing this, Jim's doing that. Well, first of all, when Bo was around, none of this stuff existed, and I don't know how he would have reacted. But I do think if you're going to see Bo Schembechler or the influence of Bo Schembechler, you're going to see it on the football field. Michigan is going to be a very well-conditioned and physical football team. They're going to go back to being a traditional Michigan football team that gets stronger as the game goes on. And, it won't be any collapse at halftime, or, they won't give up a whole lot of points in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're just going to be a tough physical football team. And really, that's where you're going to see the Schembechler influence. More so than Bo would be appalled at, what Jim's doing on the social media circle.
No, I agree absolutely. Jim he's a different kind of cat. He's a coach for the new era. I mean, he knows what he has to do. He embraces it, and he comes off like he's having a great time, and it's a breath of fresh air. And it's been a 6-month, I think, buzz for Michigan fans. The preseason mags are out on the shelf now, and, Michigan's nowhere to be found in their top 25 rankings, which I think is probably a reality check for some Michigan fans, even with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. That's really no surprise that Michigan's just not going to be in just about anyone's top 25, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, because it's not based on what the recruiting experts say, because, supposedly Michigan's roster it still has a bunch of 4- and 5-star athletes on it. That Harbaugh inherited. But, again, I think that it really does come down, especially at the collegiate level and any level really, is you have to have a coach. You have to have a guy who understands the game, is able to put his players in the best position to win. And, I'm certainly not going to sit here and trash Brady Hoke or his staff, but it just seemed, the last couple of years, and even under Rich Rodriguez, I mean, Michigan just seemed to be a very confused football team. I never like it when guys are starting to go down in their stance and trying to figure it out, and they're all looking around. They're either looking at each other or they're looking at the bench, and where really good football teams, once you're lined up at line of scrimmage, you're ready to go. You know exactly what you're going to do. And Michigan just seemed to be very, very confused lately. I don't think that that's going to happen under Jim Harbaugh, and I think that comes down with coaching. So I really think the key for Michigan, and I've said this on the Maize and Blue Sit-In with Gregor, is that I think that game 1, September 3rd at Utah, is going to be huge, because if Michigan can somehow pull off the upset and beat the Utes out there in Salt Lake City. Now, last year, and it was just coincidental, I had to go to Wyoming, of all places, for a family wedding. So my brother-in-law and I flew in there on Thursday to Salt Lake and drove to Provo to see Brigham Young play Houston. And the quarterback for Houston in that game was a guy named John O'Corn, who I thought looked pretty good. And, I know subsequently he was benched later this season, but against Brigham Young he looked great. But I can tell you, just being in Provo and then in Salt Lake City, the BYU fans are really looking forward to going to Michigan Stadium, which they all referred to as the Big House, to see the Cougars play. And BYU is a pretty good football team. And in Salt Lake City, where the University of Utah is located, they are jacked and psyched to have Michigan out there. I mean, Michigan doesn't go out west very often to play anyway, but to be hosting the Wolverines, and then to have, and back then no one knew Jim Harbaugh was going to be the coach. I'm talking about last September. That they're just psyched. I mean, they're really ready for Michigan. So it'll be a great environment. I believe it's the first football game of the year because it's a Thursday night. It'll be on Fox Sports 1, national TV. So Harbaugh's debut. They've never played in Utah before. So it'll be cool. And if they can get that, if Michigan can get that victory somehow, and I'm not going to say that they are, But I think that makes Harbaugh's, first of all, they'll jump right away. I mean, they'll get probably more publicity than they deserve and maybe a higher ranking than they may deserve. But I think that makes Jim Harbaugh's job just a little bit easier, because I think when you're dealing with kids, they'll be confident. I think it'll go a long way to preaching his message, and not that kids aren't going to buy in, because if you don't buy in, you're probably not going to play. But my point being is that, they're on the road. They set themselves up nicely. They beat Utah in Utah. They're already going to be kind of a national story just because of Harbaugh. But I think the confidence level, them listening, because when you're dealing with young people, especially a young football team and athletes like that, it is kind of a mindset. And if they're able to win that, have really high confidence, who knows what they're going to do. I mean, I don't think that non-conference schedule is all that easy. I think BYU's good. I know UNLV's not very good, but Oregon State is they're not great, but who knows? I mean, a lot of it has to do with Michigan hasn't exactly been a juggernaut in their own stadium lately. So I think that Utah game's key.
Oh, I think it is too. And you used the word confidence a couple of times there, and it reminds me of listening to Dan Deerdorf a couple of weeks ago. And he said, he could, just for the last couple of years, there's been a vibe, and he could not put his finger on it when watching this Michigan team as to, with all of that talent on the field, why did they just seem so lackluster? Why were they making so many mistakes? And he said, after the Minnesota game, when he watched Minnesota come over and take the Paul Bunyan trophy, or the Little Brown Jug, sorry, when he watched them grab that and Michigan stand and watch them, he said it just came to him that this is a team with no confidence. They have no confidence at all. I know this year the Wolverine in their preseason issue does the interviews with anonymous coaches in the Big Ten, and one of the anonymous coaches said the same thing. He said, you looked at that Michigan team and when you prepared for them last year and said, man, are they talented, but they have no confidence. So you go into Utah, and that's a nut house. I don't think a lot of Michigan fans realize that is one tough place to win a football game. A win there jacks up the confidence immensely.
Well, right. You're absolutely right, and certainly I think a lot of confidence, the players' confidence, is having confidence in your coaching staff that regardless of the adverse situation, that you have confidence in your coaches to lead you out of it. And that just unfortunately was not what was happening with Michigan last year. I can remember at Media Day last year talking to different Wolverine players, and they were I don't think they were confident as much as they were defensive. That we're going to show everybody we're different. We're a different Michigan team. We're going to do. They were defiant. But it was almost like it was a defense mechanism more than it was really a confidence. It was like, well, who are you trying to convince, me or you? Because this team has really a long way to go, and I think you're right. And again, I'm not sure. I think when I look back at Brady Hoke in his first year, Michigan won 11 games, but they won 11 games because they had Denard Robinson, who could put up points and, just get chunks of yardage in milliseconds. I mean, it was, the Notre Dame game still, there were several probably games back then that now it's easy to say this, but if you were even objective, you'd say, how did Michigan win those games? And they really won those games because Denard Robinson was just an exceptional talent. He could make things happen. He's one of those rare players that every time he touched the football, he could score. And the only other player that I can really remember like that in a Michigan uniform, and there probably have been more, but was Anthony Carter. Anthony Carter, whether he was returning a punt or, catching a football or whatever, he had the ability to make things happen. And, Robinson being a quarterback, he even had more opportunity than AC because they had to get the ball to AC, but, Robinson made things happen. So I think in a strange sense that it was almost a false sense of security when Michigan won, and again, this is very easy to say at this point, but when they were 11-2, but a lot of that had to do with quarterback play, and then you can see it. What has really been one of the most difficult things for Michigan to get really a handle on what position has been quarterback. Devin Gardner for whatever reason, became kind of a turnover machine, and I think he was just running for his life. I think he was shell-shocked, and I know he used to get upset with me when I would ask him that question. But he just was at a point where I thought his decision-making just came to a point of where he just didn't want to get hit anymore, and I don't blame him. That he was making just odd decisions and way too many turnovers, and I think you've seen with what Harbaugh has done. I was joking around. Michigan might have like 20 some odd scholarships next year to give, and like 19 of them are going to be quarterbacks because Harbaugh's going to find a quarterback. Make no mistake about it. He's not only going to find a quarterback, he's going to find a quarterback that's going to play at the next level, that's going to play in the NFL.
Our guest here on our Michigan Game Day segment this week is the always entertaining Art Regner, who's the co-host of the Maize and Blue Sit-In right here on Wolverine Sports Radio with his old Detroit sports buddy, Greg Henson. For those of you outside of the Detroit market, Greg and Art were a team here in the Detroit market. How many years was it, Art?
First at DFN, we were the Sunday afternoon sit-in. So that was for the first couple of years. And then we did that show, and then over at XYT, we were a team for a couple of years, too. We've always kind of worked at the same radio station. Sometimes we were paired together, sometimes we weren't. But, obviously Greg Henson's a great guy to watch a Michigan game with. We'll be in the press box, and it's opening kickoff, and if Michigan fumbles it, it's like, dude, they're going to lose, man. They got no shot. And, so he's fairly pessimistic. And then, as soon as something good happens, he goes, well, maybe they can turn it around. I guess maybe that's how a fan is. But, yeah, we've done it a long time together. Greg's always been a good buddy of mine. I mean, heck, DFN on the 11th of July will now be 21 years strong going in Detroit. And I sit in for Matt Shepard. That's their only local show, unfortunately, from 7 to 10. And when he can't do it, so I still end up doing the DFN a little bit. But it's been fun. It's been fun, Mike. I mean, I've always said it beats working for a living. So
well, I invite our listeners, especially all of our Michigan fans. That's the only reason you listen to us. To head over to the iTunes store and check out Wolverine Sports Radio. Then you can hear Art and Greg. With roughly 6 weeks until fall practice starts, there are a lot of questions about this Michigan team. We both know that. When I sort of chart my questions out, I keep coming to, 5 areas that worry me the most, and they're general. But if you could let me run these by you 1 through 5, Art, get your take. The first one that always is my biggest concern is there enough talent on this offense this year to consistently move the football? I just don't know.
Well, I think a couple of things are going to, at least what Harbaugh is going to try to do. I think that he's going to try to utilize the tight end for sure. He always wants to do that, and I think he's going to, the old expression, come hell or high water, he's going to find a running back that can run the ball. Now, whether that's Ty Isaac or Green or, whomever, Davion Smith, and the offensive line, which, most Michigan fans that I've talked to felt fairly good about the offensive line last year and thought that they were finally coming together. I'm not so sure that I would go that far, but what I'm saying is at this point, I think that we're going to, and I think Harbaugh's going to find out rather quickly whether they do have the talent to maintain. I think everybody thinks Rudock is going to be the quarterback. Shane Morris, maybe this is what he needed. He needed definitive competition. I think maybe he can come through and actually win the job. I just don't know. But I think that the scheme that Harbaugh is going to play, if they're able to run the football and utilize the tight end, and Mike, I think every time I look at any time Michigan has had a really, really, really good football team, the tight end has been utilized not exclusively, but has always been a contributor, a major, whether it's Jeremy Tooman in '97, or I can go back to Paul Jokic, having some great games when they played down in South Carolina. I mean, the tight end is a huge position. I think, as you can see just by how Michigan is recruiting right now, that Harbaugh believes that, they're going to have a fullback. They're going to want to try to run that football. They're going to go right into a power game right away. And if they are able to do that, then, I think the receivers, I think they have just enough in the receivers. I think, that I believe Rudolph's going to be the quarterback. So I think that he had a high percentage completion rate at Iowa. I have a really good friend of mine who graduated from Michigan but lives and works in Des Moines, telling me that, that Iowa fans thought that Rudolph was a great quarterback, actually, that he was, that they the Iowa offense kind of roped him in. So, under Michigan, that if they allow him to do some things, that he could be, pretty good, even though he'll be a one-hit wonder until they can figure it out. So I know this is a long answer. I mean, I'm worried about it too, but I know that Jim's going to be implementing some things that he wants in there, and if he's able to implement them and be successful, and if this offensive line is able to go, although Michigan is recruiting a lot of offensive linemen, which I don't know if that's I guess you can never have. It's like in the NHL, you can't have enough defensemen. You can't have enough offensive linemen, I guess. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think it's a huge question mark, and but again, I think with what Harbaugh is going to be trying to do, we'll find out very early on what type of offense and what type of talent Michigan really has.
One of the other things that is a question that pops to mind for me is we have an incredible defensive front. We think we're going to have a very good defense, but the thing that has to change is pressure on the quarterback and forcing more turnovers. Can we do it? I think that's a very big question.
Yeah, I think that is without question, no pun intended there. I think that for sure is a major concern. I couldn't agree more with you. I think at this point, maybe we're putting too much, our eggs all in one basket, but if Jabril Peppers can be a difference maker on the other side of the ball, whether he's intercepting or causing fumbles, if he is one of those truly gifted and special players, and I think, he wants to be, certainly, he doesn't seem to lack confidence or anything like that, I think that could go a long way in helping out that defense. That has really been, if you look at Michigan defensively, I mean, heck, God bless Jake Ryan and all that, but is Desmond Morgan going to come back and play well? Is Taco Charlton going to do something? Someone's going to have to step up. But if Peppers can really become the five-star athlete that he should be, and let's be honest, last year was a bust for him, was kind of a wash.
Yeah.
Then I think that will help out. I just think you have to put these guys in the best position to win, and Michigan's defense, even though they weren't creating a lot of turnovers, was not bad last year. And they had some of their moments and things, but I guess when I look at the defense right now at this point, and it's early, and I look at Peppers is going to have to be the player we all hope he is.
Another question that just comes up all the time for me is, can the special teams help Michigan win more games? We've got John Baxter coaching the special teams now, and he's supposed to be this special teams guru, and the special teams play has been horrendous the last couple of years. So to me, that is another very important question. Can we improve there?
Well, right. For me, I have just always thought that special teams in Michigan, except when they've had the late great Donnie Bracken or John Anderson, or punting has been all right, I guess, for the most part, but it's always been a crapshoot with special teams with Michigan. I've never really had much confidence, even though I've seen kicks go through at the last second, and but I still go back to, Rocket Ishmael, returning kickoffs against Michigan. It's still, I still wake up in a cold sweat. I don't know why they seem to be a school that just can't seem to get it right. But I agree with you. But that's going to change too. I just think, in all honesty, Mike, that Michigan, just through off-the-field politics that were going on at the university, and then, support for coaches and non-support for coaches, and, hiring Brady, who had an under 500 record, and, I just think that the last 7 years, and probably even before that, going to, Lloyd's last year, where they lose to Appalachian State, Michigan has just been a mess. They've just been a mess. And I think at this point, I think President Schlissel is a good leader. I think he has a handle on it. I don't know how long Hackett's going to be the athletic director, but, he seems to have a bit of a handle on it. And now you have, Harbaugh as the coach, whom, if you go just by track record, should have a handle on it. Then, maybe Michigan is going to turn the corner. And I think once they turn the corner, I think it's going to be rather quickly. It's just going to be interesting to see how they do it. But I do believe that, Harbaugh knows that, in today's day and age of football, special teams, offense, and defense, they all have to be good, or you're not going to have a chance to do anything.
Well, Art, do you think a 9-win season and maybe even a bowl win is something that's a realistic goal for this program this year?
Well, I think obviously a bowl game for sure. And do I think 9 wins is realistic? I think it is realistic, but I think it all hinges on Utah. If they beat Utah, they could definitely go through the non-conference portion of their schedule undefeated. I think that they're going to beat the Beavers. I think that UNLV is kind of a struggling team. I think BYU is going to be a tougher game than people give it credit for, but then I think that they're at Maryland, which I'm just not impressed with Maryland. So if Michigan can start, if Michigan has a good non-conference season and rolls and starts getting confidence, I think that they can certainly win 9 games. People are saying, well, Michigan State's going to crucify them, and so is Ohio State. Those games are in Ann Arbor. I'm not going to say Michigan's going to beat either one of those teams, but I wouldn't be surprised if they beat those teams. But the problem, Mike, that we have right now is that I'm trying to be objective here. Even though I graduated from Michigan, I love Michigan. I have been a Michigan fan even before I was born. My dad wrote, "You play football at the University of Michigan," on my birth certificate. The fall of '75, which was my freshman year. I mean, he did. So I mean, I grew up in a household whenever the Victors was played anywhere, my dad would stand up. I can't, I try to, but I try to be objective, especially, being, the pro that I am right now. But I have a tough time not buying into the Harbaugh hype because I remember him as a player. I know him. I don't know him well, but I know him well enough to know that, he loves Michigan. He loves Michigan. He's a Michigan geek, and that he will do everything within his power. And when you have a guy that's not only motivated but as talented as him, I'm just eager to see where they are. But I do think really what we'll also find out, more so than how great a coach Jim Harbaugh is this year, we're really going to find out how accurate these recruiting services are about 4- and 5-star kids. Mark D'Antonio seems to turn water into football wine or football wins, and with guys that aren't very good, and now he's recruiting very, very well. But I'm just curious to see, because I think we all are in agreement, and I think even Michigan detractors are, based on what he has been able to accomplish at every level that he's coached at, including the NFL. Harbaugh is a good coach. He gets results, and he wins. So if Michigan has this talent, and as you said, a lot of coaches said, boy, they're a talented football team. There's talent all over the field. They just don't have any confidence. Well, I think that he's going to restore confidence in them, and we'll see. We'll see. I just think that I'm just eager. I'm really just wanting, like most Michigan fans, like we started off this conversation, Mike, I just want to see what they have. I mean, I can't wait till September 3rd in Utah. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get tickets to that game because my brother-in-law really wants, we kind of we were in Provo. Why not go now to Salt Lake and see the Utes play? But I really would like to be in the stands for that game because I really want to. And nothing's like being there. It doesn't really translate on TV. I just want to see Michigan's first game under Harbaugh. I want to be in that stadium. I want to get the vibe from that team. I want to get that, that maize and blue feel. Where exactly are they? And I think once that happens, as I said, we'll really find out, is so-and-so this 4-star athlete? Is Derek Green a 5-star, running back? Because, Harbaugh is going, first of all, I don't think he cares about whatever your credentials are, whether you're a 1-star, preferred walk-on, or a 5-star. He's going to want guys that can play. If he thinks you're going to play, if you're a player, then you're going to play. I mean, that's exactly, what's going to happen. So, I'm eager. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm kind of getting myself all psyched up for the season now, too.
Well, we don't have long to wait. Our guest here on the our Michigan Game Day segment has been Art Regner, and Art has been around the Detroit market, has done such a great job for so many years now, co-host of the Amazing Blue Sit-In right here on Wolverine Sports Radio with Greg Henson. We've got a great lineup, I think, on Wolverine Sports Radio, Art, and the listeners can go over to the iTunes store, download the app, and start getting antsy with the rest of us for the start of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just eager. I mean, it could be a real sobering season. Michigan could be right around 500 again, or a couple of games above. I do think they're going to be a bowl team this year. I truly, I think somehow, Harbaugh's going to at least be able to squeeze out 6 wins on this team. I just think just the improvement in coaching alone, it's worth a couple of more victories than they got last year. But I do think depending on where they are, I'm eager to see how they are against Michigan State and Ohio State. I mean, they do have them at home, although as I said earlier, Michigan Stadium has not been the home field advantage or force. As a matter of fact, I've seen Michigan kind of play some of their worst football. It's been at Michigan Stadium the last few years.
Well, it has.
Yeah, but that should change. That should change. I mean, you have a coach who understands the culture and gets it, and played for Bo. Has been indoctrinated with the Michigan, the Michigan virus like I have since he was a boy. So I think that as I said, Jimmy's going to do everything within his power to not only make Michigan relevant again, but to make them a national power.
Well, Art, it's always a pleasure having you on the show talking Michigan football, and we look forward to having you back during the season. So take care, and we'll get you back on soon.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy it. Thank you.
As you can tell, Art has his ankles taped and is ready for the season to begin. He'll be back with us during the season with his always colorful slant on Michigan football. Up next, we close it out for another week with Wolverine Quick Hits here on The Michigan Man, in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew and our many listeners on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, it's early July, so it's kind of the quiet before the storm. Michigan football players are on campus working out and going to class. The summer bridge program gives players a jump on the school year and lightens their load during the very busy fall practice and classroom schedule. It also gives the incoming freshmen a chance to learn better how to balance their practice and classwork load, which I'm sure we can all agree is a bit different from their high school days. So not much news comes from the summer drills, but we know they serve a very important role in developing team leadership and chemistry, which could pay off big once the pads start cracking in preparation for that Utah opener. Michigan Athletic Director Jim Hackett announced on Monday that Michigan was reuniting with Nike. The deal with Adidas is still in effect through mid-2017. Nike's Michigan gear will not be available for purchase until sometime next summer. NFL analysts are saying transfer Wayne Lyons from Stanford is Michigan's top NFL draft prospect in 2016. Wayne is on campus working out with the team right now and is expected to battle for a spot at one of the corners on D. June was a recruiting bonanza for Michigan, but things have slowed a bit here in July. Last week, four-star receiver Brad Hawkins gave his verbal commit to Coach Harbaugh. He is the first receiver in the class of 2016 and hails from Camden, New Jersey, a state that is becoming very Michigan-friendly in this class. We all know there is one more player from Jersey, Michigan would like to haul in, the number one rated player in the country on everyone's list, Rashawn Gary from Paramus Catholic. Most Michigan recruiting analysts believe Gary still has Michigan at the top of his very short list. We shall see. Thanks again to Art Regner for joining us on the show today. He is a great guest, and he knows and loves his Michigan football, as I'm sure you could tell. Once again, a reminder that it's now easier than ever to listen to The Michigan Man. Our free show apps are available from the iTunes Store. Just do a search for The Michigan Man, the Android Play Store, and the Windows 8 App Store. We resume weekly programming on August 5th, so get one of our apps and join us weekly for the best podcast coverage of your Wolverines. That will do it for this week. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to tell your friends about the show. Follow us on Twitter at The Michigan Man and Wolverine Sports Radio at Go Blue Radio. Until next time, I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine summer week, everyone. We'll be back on July 22nd with our next show here on The Michigan Man, in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew and on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network. Take care, everyone, and as always, until we meet again, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man Podcast. You can find us on the web at www.themichiganmanpodcast.com or www.maizenbrew.com. Our listener line is open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or you can email your thoughts and opinions to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Maize and Brew, your best source for quality Michigan Wolverine news, analysis, stats, and scores from the fan perspective. Visit www.maizenbrew.com for the best coverage of your Wolverines. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!